Moderation does not equal freedom for me. Trying to control an addictive substance does not equal freedom in my mind. The fact is that the very concept of moderation denies the fact that alcohol is an addictive drug. Society wants to sugarcoat that. They want to pretend it's not true, but it's true. Alcohol creates the need for more alcohol. So moderation never is a long-term, stable solution. It's a Band-Aid.
Welcome to the Shannon McCabe Show, where we break free from our drink-obsessed culture, challenge the myths around alcohol, and redefine sobriety as the empowering choice it truly is. I'm Shannon McCabe, sober coach, holistic nutritionist, and your guide to a life that feels better without booze. Whether you're newly sober, sober curious, or years into this journey, this podcast is here to give you the truth about alcohol, the tools to build lasting confidence, and the hope that a vibrant, fulfilling life is waiting for you on the other side. So grab your coffee or sparkling water and let's dive in.
Hey, you guys. Okay. Welcome back. This is the big hairy question, right? This is the elephant in the room. So let's just dive right in. We're going to chat about all of it today, okay? So some of this is going to be things that you guys might not know. Other parts of it are going to be things that you maybe just haven't considered. Ways of looking at the question of, can I moderate? Is moderation possible? What are the pros and cons of moderation? So we're going to dive into all of it starting right now. You guys, I always start the conversation of moderation with this, okay? It's kind of just an acknowledgement, a statement that the people who naturally can just have one or two drinks and then stop without an issue. You guys, these are invariably the people that they don't even consciously experience what we experience, which is that insecure, almost panic, or at the very least, a preoccupation or a building obsession with the next drink as they're finishing the drink in their hand, okay? So these people don't associate having another drink as the solution to that preoccupation, to that sense of panic at the thought of finishing their drink, okay? There are people that don't experience that the way that we do. So it's really important to understand that. And it's really important to also just understand and make your peace with the fact that once you have traveled into that state of being, once you have crossed the invisible but very real line into needing and wanting another drink as soon as you finish one drink, there's no going back. Your brain doesn't ever go back to a time or a place where that will not be the truth for you, okay? And I know that that can be a really, really hard pill to swallow, but that's part of the work that we're here to do, is to become aware of some of these really uncomfortable truths, that absolutely suck. They feel like they really, really suck in the beginning. And the only thing I can say to that is I get it. I get it, because it's that really kind of just pissed off. Well, that's not fair. We all go through it. You guys, all of us that have reached a place of absolute peace and freedom in our sobriety have been in the moment where we're this is just bullshit, to be honest. It's bullshit. And that actually leads right into the next part of what I'm going to say, is that it is incredibly unfair. It can feel incredibly unfair that there are people that don't exist in the space that we do. And I get that, you guys. My husband is one of those people. We were actually just talking about it this weekend, because he truly can have one drink and nurse it over a period of 2 hours. And I still don't understand the point of that. I don't understand the point of it. I also don't understand how it's possible. But it's possible because his brain has never crossed that line that my brain crossed years ago. And you can't, there's no amount of reasoning or bargaining or anything else you can do to make it any other way than that. There are some people that this doesn't happen to, and there are those of us that it happens. And that's just the way it is and the way it's always going to be. So part of our work here, a big part of the work, and I'll remind you, because you've heard me say this before, this is where we have the chance to get really curious and to just choose to grow, or to choose to stay stuck in that victim mentality. Because you can stay stuck and just keep running circles around yourself saying, but this isn't fair. That's not fair. Why do they get to have just one drink and I don't get to? You guys, fine. It's not fair. It's just life though. It's life. You get to decide how to respond to that, and you get to decide how to show up. So you can keep wasting your energy, like stomping your feet like a little kid saying, but it's not fair. I want to be able to have just one drink, but that's not going to make it true. Okay. So sorry. I'm sure that triggers. Love to hear how that lands. Triggers, resonates. We'll talk about that a little bit more at the end. But now I want to transition to some of maybe the more facts, some of the science behind this concept of moderation that might help you deal with the unfairness, the seeming unfairness of it all a little bit more, or just give you some more information to equip you as you really ponder and make the decision for yourself on whether or not moderation is possible for you, okay? So the first thing I want you guys to consider is that choosing to moderate, choosing to attempt to moderate means that you are choosing to be always making a decision. You are basically signing up for staying in a decision-making process endlessly, right? And what does that look like? Because moderation itself means deciding if and when to drink. So you are always trying to decide what those parameters are, what those rules are. And the data on this, what studies, countless studies have shown us now, and that any decision we make, whether it is a really, really big life-changing decision like, oh my gosh, should I quit jobs? Or the small decision of what am I going to wear today? All of those decisions actually take the same amount of brain power from us. A decision is a decision. So when you sign up for staying in a perpetual state of making decisions, it is using energy. That is going to be a never-ending suck on your personal energy, okay? So when this comes to moderation and trying to moderate, this means that you are willingly giving yourself to the endless loop of, can I drink? How many drinks can I drink? What are my rules? Is it certain days? Is it certain occasions? Is it certain kinds of alcohol? Is it a certain time? Is it certain people? Is it certain places? We are saying, okay, I want to continually give my energy to that. And what this means, you guys, then, is you're embracing decision fatigue. You are saying that the very real existence of decision fatigue, right? We all know this. Everybody knows decision fatigue. It's like, it is the endless cycle of what am I going to make for dinner? What are we going to do this weekend? Should we go there on vacation in March, or should we go there on vacation in March? My husband wants to do this. I want to do this. We've got to decide. There are a million decisions that come along with everyday life. The more that we have to consciously make those decisions, the more it wears us out, the more it takes energy from us. And it's hard enough to keep doing that when we feel like we are in a good mental place, right? When we're well rested, when we're hydrated, when we've been eating right, when we're happy with our job and our friends and our family and all this other stuff. But what happens then is when any of those things start to kilter and we find ourselves grumpy, or tired, or stressed out from our kids or our job, or frazzled, it gets harder and harder to make good, healthy decisions, right? So this is one of the ways, we'll talk about the other ways, but this is one of the ways that very often when people decide to moderate, you quickly start sliding down the slope of every weekend becomes, well, Thursdays too. Or I said I'm not going to drink on Mondays, but God, this was just a really shitty day. And so I'm going to let myself have just 2 glasses of wine. And we start making compromises because we are tired, and making decisions is harder when you are tired and when you are stressed out and when things aren't going the way that they want you to go in, the way you want them to go in life, right? So from a decision-making standpoint, this is 100% what we're talking about when you hear me, everybody else in the sober world that says it is literally easier to just say I'm having none at all than to continue trying to just have 1 or 2. Because we have made a decision and then that's it. The process is over. There are no more decisions to make when it comes to alcohol because I have said, no, it's not an option. I don't drink. And that's it. Then that chapter is closed. And I can use all of my mental faculties to make the other decisions that my life requires, okay? A way to piggyback onto that, if you will. If you do decide that you want to try to moderate and you're okay with that energy going into decision-making, are you aware? Are you also acknowledging? Are you okay with saying that you're going to just continue giving your time and energy to this cycle of moderation for what? For the rest of your life? for as long as you can until something worse happens or something bad happens. Because what you're signing up for then is continually being controlled by alcohol, because the alcohol is still always there being alcohol and wanting more of you and wanting more of your time, wanting you to drink it more. Your decision to moderate means that you are consistently trying to keep like a barrier or a wall up between alcohol sucking more of your life away from you. So you're going to put an effort into that, keeping that wall big and strong indefinitely. That's what you're consenting to when you decide to moderate. You're not consenting to eventual peace and freedom from alcohol. You're consenting to being controlled still by alcohol, even if you're drinking less, because you're still consciously and continually making a decision about your drinking, okay? That's part of the decision that everybody has to make. Because yes, we can say, okay, but this is better than before because maybe now I'm not drinking every single night. I'm only drinking on weekends. And that's true. It's absolutely progress from that standpoint. But this is where then we want to think about like our bigger goal, our bigger life goal is, do you ultimately want to just be content with drinking less, or do you want to be free from the control that alcohol has over you? Do you want to feel at peace that you really can just take or leave alcohol? Because that's the thing. Moderation disguises itself as saying, oh, I can take it or leave it because I don't drink every day. But if you're still counting and if you're still measuring and if you're still making rules, and even a little of you is like, I can't wait till Friday when I can, I've told myself I can have 3 glasses of wine. That's not peace and that's not freedom. That's alcohol still calling the shots and you giving alcohol the consent to do that. All right. So the next thing, a little bit more science, but really obvious stuff here, you guys, is that alcohol creates a thirst for itself. It creates a desire loop in our brain. Okay. And this is true for any addictive substance, which is why part of this is like, what society doesn't want to admit, but alcohol is a drug and it is an addictive drug. And they're addictive because they artificially stimulate the parts of our brain in such a way that we can't get that same stimulation from anything natural. And that's part of how it hooks us in, because it's like setting off fireworks in part of our brain. And then when that stops and that fades, normal, natural ways, normal fireworks are never as big and grand as great as alcohol fireworks. So as soon as that leaves, our brain chemistry plummets and all it wants to do is get back to that point. And so it wants more of the thing that created those artificial but very powerful fireworks. So we want more to drink then, which is why another reason eventually moderation leads us down that slippery slope, because your willpower and your intentional decision-making to only have 1 or 2 sooner or later are not a match for your brain saying, but if 1 feels this way, then 2 would feel even better. And then 3 has got to feel even better. So let's just keep going. And let's just keep drinking. Because another thing that our brain chemistry does is the more that that artificial dump, that artificial like turning on and overstimulation from alcohol happens, the more we need of the substance to make that same thing happen. Okay. And we're going to talk about this more in a second, is how tolerance then begins to play into this. Because think about this. I'm sure you guys can all relate to it. Is that we found ourselves in trouble with our drinking because what started as 1 drink became 2, became 3. And then sooner or later, we were the women that could drink an entire bottle of wine and almost not really even feel it, right? We're like, how did this happen? When did this happen? When did I become the lady that could drink a bottle of wine and maybe people around me don't even realize because I'm not actually that drunk anymore? Or I'm not even that tipsy, okay? The fact that alcohol, by its nature as a chemically addictive substance, makes us want and need more, tells us that from a chemical standpoint, moderation is not possible. It's not a sustainable solution, because the effect of having 1 drink is to need and want another drink. And this is another thing that we can't go back in time. you're never going to be able to go back to the time where one glass of wine gives you a buzz. It's like another line that our brain just doesn't repair that way. It doesn't go back to it. And this is why you hear about, even in the recovery community, people that are maybe 2 years sober, 5 years, 10 years sober, they have one drink and they're right back tumbling down that hill to where they started, because it can't be just one drink. You have one and it turns on all of these chemical reactions that I'm talking about, where your brain wants more. And it's because one drink doesn't really do anything for us anymore, right? So on a chemical level, it's important to understand that moderation isn't actually really even possible. Now, yes, your willpower, your commitment to a decision to moderate can make this seem sustainable for a little while until something happens, until the really tragic life event, until the really big, bad, hard day when you just hit the F it button because you're so tired from making decisions around this, or when that overwhelming desire for the next drink overpowers your reason and your logic, okay? What if you could finally break free from the constant cycle of drinking, quitting, bargaining with yourself, and actually build a life that feels calm and clear and deeply aligned with who you want to be? I created the Alcohol-Free Blueprint for women who are ready to stop trying to moderate and start feeling confident and steady and fully present in their life again. This program isn't just about quitting drinking. It's about taking back your energy and your mindset and your wellness and your freedom. Inside the Blueprint, I'll walk you step by step through the tools, mindset shifts, and support systems that actually help you change for good. You'll learn how to handle cravings, rebuild your habits, feel stronger in your body, and navigate all of life's ups and downs without alcohol. And you'll have full access to over 45 video lessons, journaling prompts, live coaching, and community support, so you never have to do this alone. One of my clients, let's call her Sarah, came to me after years of trying to control her drinking. She told me, I finally feel free. I'm not constantly thinking about drinking anymore. I have energy again, and I actually like myself. And that's just the kind of change we're after. Most of my clients are excited to no longer be a drinker after just 30 days inside the Blueprint. If you're ready to stop spinning your wheels and start living the life alcohol has been holding you back from, head to the link in the show notes or go find me over on Instagram. I would love to help you take this next step. So chemically, moderation, like, it's not how the brain works, not how our brain works when it comes to alcohol, okay? So the next little thing of that, which I kind of just touch on, but it's important to understand and to highlight, because this is not something that you've never heard before, is that the way alcohol affects our brain, one of the many ways that affects our brain, is it impairs our decision-making ability, right? And we talk about this often. Part of it is why when we have one drink, then we want more, because alcohol numbs and slows down our prefrontal cortex, the part of our brain that keeps us safe and keeps us making good, sound decisions that are for our betterment and for our health and for our longevity. Alcohol, that is what it slows down, which is why oftentimes when we drink, we put ourselves in precarious situations, or we even do things like send the text message we would never send otherwise. We make poor food choices. We end up going places or doing things that we would not do in our right mind, because alcohol shuts off this part of our brain that is designed to take care of us and to keep us safe and to help us make smart decisions. So if you're relying on your brain's ability to make smart decisions to help you control alcohol, but the alcohol you're drinking shuts off that part of your brain that makes smart decisions, do you see how that doesn't work? You're relying on the very part of your brain that you are literally drowning and numbing and like lights out on with the substance that you're hoping to control with the help of that part of your brain. And it's not your fault if you didn't know this, you guys. This is the stuff that people don't talk about. This is the ugly truth of alcohol that society glosses over to keep people buying things and to keep us stuck in a cycle that keeps us small and keeps us weak and keeps us dependent, okay? But it's important to understand that the very thing you are trying to moderate is the thing that makes it impossible for your brain to moderate it, because it shuts off and is killing the part of your brain that would make the responsible choice to moderate. I know it's not glamorous, and if you still think it's unfair, that's fine, but it doesn't make it not true, okay? All right, this is the last one. This is the last kind of like science factoid I want to share and this kind of ties into the conversations we've had about dopamine, you guys, but a little bit differently, is alcohol actually numbs the pleasure response in our brain, okay? And it particularly numbs it to being able to extract pleasure from natural sources as compared to like the big artificial fireworks I was talking about earlier, okay? So when our brain's pleasure center is repeatedly over and over and over again, artificially and overstimulated by addictive substances like alcohol, it produces counter chemicals. There are other actually like measurable chemicals that our brain produces in response that are suppressive, that are depressive in nature, because that artificial stimulation is so dangerous to our brain over long periods of time. So it's like a built-in homeostasis defense mechanism that our brain starts producing chemicals to mitigate the dangerous artificial pleasure stimulus that alcohol causes. But what happens is over time, what this means, that constant drip of depressive chemicals from our brain makes it impossible for us to extract pleasure from anything else. So this is why over enough time, when we are drinking, all we want to do is keep drinking, because suddenly it's hard for us to find joy or peace or contentment in anything else. And this is something that you'll hear us talk about a lot, is maybe, like at the end of my drinking, one of my favorite things to do was to just sit alone and drink, because I couldn't find pleasure in other areas of my life anymore, the way alcohol was giving it to me. And it was because it had ingrained this chemical loop in my brain so strongly and so well that I didn't extract as much joy or any joy. I mean, yes, joy, but not joy on the same level, on the same like artificially high level. I couldn't get that from hanging out with friends or family or my work or moving my body or eating healthy food or laughing or anything like that. Okay. So these everyday activities that used to bring us joy don't even hold a candle to alcohol anymore. And the only way we can heal this damage, because that's what it is, the only way that we can heal and repair, and yes, eventually get our brain to the point where it does experience joy again from natural, safe sources, is by removing alcohol completely. So when you attempt to moderate and you just slow down the drip of that artificial stimulation from alcohol, you're making it still impossible for your brain to ever experience the true lasting joy from natural sources in your life, because your brain knows that at some point there's going to be a little hit of alcohol. So it's waiting for that, because that artificial hit is 1,000 times more effective, more stimulating than the natural hit. So it's going to choose that because it's chemistry. So you're never giving, this dopamine loop a chance to heal. You're never going to be able to find the contentment and the joy in just spending time with your pets or your loved ones or doing hobbies that you used to love or finding new hobbies and figuring out how much you love them, if even you're just drinking 3 glasses of wine every Friday and Saturday night. Because that is always going to take top billing from a chemical standpoint in your brain. Because that's how strong and powerful of an addictive substance alcohol is. So you combine all of that with like the decision-making fatigue we were talking about, with the fact that the part of your brain that like helps you make the smart decisions and keep you moderating actually gets squashed by the substance that you're trying to moderate. This is how oftentimes it's like, okay, you come out of the gates after dry January and okay, I'm going to just moderate I'm going to just be able to moderate. And maybe you can for like a month, maybe even 3 or 4 months. And then, like I said, then it's like, oh, Thursday nights creep in, because why not? What's the big deal? And then you have a really bad Tuesday and it's like, okay, but this is just one Tuesday. It's fine. Well, then something changes with your job or something happens to a family member or whatever. You keep making more seemingly small compromises and letting alcohol back in the door. And the whole time you're sliding farther down that slippery slope and you end up right back where you started, if not even worse, because that's the chemical thing that alcohol does too. It's all the stuff we talked about. Like the more you drink it, the more you want it. and the more you need. So even when you're trying to moderate, it's going to be like, God, do you even get a buzz from 2 glasses of wine? So then right there, are you making a compromise saying, well, then it's going to be 3. But that's okay because it's only on weekends until it's not only on weekends and you add Thursday back in. Like, I hope that you're beginning to see how this snowballs like rather quickly. Okay. Last kind of closing thought. And this is more of a mindset thing, but I mean, this is the work. I think we can use all of those facts we just talked about, all of the black and white scientific data that, like, you can't argue with it. You can maybe wish it wasn't true, but it's true. Like, it just is. So that's just the way it is. Use all of that and apply it to this perception question, to this mindset question, okay? One of the biggest issues, the biggest concerns from my standpoint with moderation is that it perpetuates this story. It perpetuates this belief that alcohol holds value that you can't replicate or replace any other way in your life. Moderation perpetuates this idea that we need it to celebrate, to relax, to have fun, to connect. That any experience we have without alcohol is automatically and forever going to be less than. Because otherwise, why would we try to moderate this thing? We know all the facts now. Alcohol is garbage for us. It literally destroys cells in your body from the second you take a sip, and everything else we talked about. Wanting to moderate it comes from a belief that it still holds value, that it still does something for you that nothing else can do, that you can't do for yourself. And so wanting and trying to moderate is still buying into that story. It's giving power to that story. And if that's still where you are, you guys, it's okay because it takes time. But that's the question here is you can give your energy and your time to trying to moderate, or you can take that same energy and that same time and use it to try to find a different solution. All of the occasions that you're afraid of facing without alcohol, all of the situations, all of the people, all of the places, right? You guys, and it's everything. And I get it. It's like that business trip because networking happens at the bar. It's the family vacation. It's the wedding. It's the graduation. It's, oh my gosh, you guys, it's everything. I get it. It's, summer on the patio. It's camping. It's your neighborhood block party. Like, these are all real, and I'm not mitigating that. But I'm saying it is a choice. You can keep perpetuating the idea that alcohol is necessary to make any of those experiences as good or not as bad as they would be on their own. Or you can take that same energy and time and try to find other solutions. Try to experience the good things without alcohol and see what that actually feels like. Try to navigate the really hard stuff without alcohol and see what that feels like. Because it's possible, right? Because you see some of us talking about it all the time. And this is where I always say, like, there's nothing miraculous about me that can't be miraculous about you too. There's no reason that I figured this out that you guys can't figure it out. It honestly all started with a very conscious decision to just say, in the face of all of this overwhelming evidence, I'm not going to give my time and energy to what seems like a pretty futile objective, which is moderation. Instead, I'm going to give that time and energy to finding the answers to these questions. How am I going to go on vacation without drinking? How am I going to stand up in my brother's wedding sober? How am I going to continue to get together with my friends and not drink when they're drinking? We don't know until we try. We don't know until we try. And the reason I made that decision, I mean, for many reasons, but one of it is it really came down to this, is I just asked myself, like, kind of point blank, like, do I want to still be doing this? Meaning try to moderate, meaning trying to figure out my drinking, like, in 6 months or in a year or the rest of my life? Like, do I want to perpetually be trying to figure out my drinking? Or do I want to spend that energy figuring out how to live life without needing alcohol? And you guys, it's a personal decision. Everybody's got to decide it for themselves. I really just wanted to feel as free as possible. And like I said, in the face of all of this overwhelming evidence, I realized that moderation does not equal freedom for me. Trying to control an addictive substance does not equal freedom in my mind. And so I decided not to. You've got to decide what that looks like for you. And that's okay. It's part of the process. Everybody's got to figure it out for themselves. I'll leave you with this last closing thought, okay, you guys? The fact is that the very concept of moderation denies the fact that alcohol is an addictive drug, okay? And again, society wants to sugarcoat that. They want to pretend it's not true, but it's true. Alcohol creates the need for more alcohol. So moderation never is a long-term, like stable solution or condition. It's a Band-Aid at best. And at worst, it's worse than that. So you get to decide what you put your time and energy into. You get to decide how you take in this information and this evidence and how you're going to use it. And there's no right or wrong answer as long as you are doing your best and being true to yourself, if that makes sense. That is my wish for you guys, is that you guys just have the belief in yourself, the courage, the faith to do what you know is best for you. Okay? All right, you guys. I know this one brings up a lot, so let's hear it. How did this land? Does it resonate? Does it trigger? What do you want to talk about? So thank you guys for hanging out with me for this. And, keep the conversation coming. We'll just keep chatting about it, okay? Talk to you guys soon.
That's it for today's episode. If this conversation resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a new episode. And if you're loving the show, I'd be so grateful if you'd leave a quick review. It helps others find this message and start their own journey to freedom. Until next time, keep choosing yourself, keep believing in what's possible, and remember, you are so much stronger than you think.